I get it. I'm not a Republican, but you know what? Go ahead and sign me up, because I just need away from them too. Hi, welcome to Street Politics. My name is Reese Waters. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. Now, first, we had blacks for Trump.
I'm here to support President Trump. You wanna know why I'm here to support President Trump? Because they done did black men like this for decades. Make up charges and put them, so I know Trump is innocent. I support Trump against this corrupt, two-tiered justice system.
No. I said blacks for Trump. Then there was white guys for Harris.
And the other side, they try and take everything that's good about us and demean it. Kamala Harris smiles. She laughs. She dances. She has joy. She's alive. And they try and ridicule her for that. And they try and undermine us for that. This is a serious person who can prosecute a tough case against people when she's in the Senate. Those are some of the most exciting moments during that awful time, was watching this senator take them to task.
Rudy. Well, everybody didn't handle that so well.
Like, it just makes no sense. And what if we had black dudes, black brothers for Trump? Well, we'd all lose our blackness as soon as we showed up for the meeting. So, I mean, or what if we had white guys for, I don't know, Nazism? You know, like, where do you draw the line?
Well, naturally, as anybody could have predicted, and by anybody, I mean anybody, Nikki Haley.
If he goes up in a general election, we will have a female president of the United States. It will either be me or it will be Kamala Harris.
Mitt Romney.
I will not be voting for former President Trump.
Liz Cheney, even Dick Cheney. We now have Republicans for Harris.
This is huge. Kamala Harris's campaign just launched a group called Republicans for Harris in the campaign's efforts to try to win over Republican voters that were put off by Donald Trump's presidency. According to the Harris campaign, they are specifically targeting GOP voters that were supporting Nikki Haley over Donald Trump, and they're going to use well-known Republicans to attend events and rallies for Harris to communicate the message to other Republican voters.
It's about time. I mean, how crazy does it have to get? The group includes ex-Trump White House officials Stephanie Grisham and Olivia Troye, the security advisor to Mike Pence. And I could see how the security advisor to Mike Pence might have some issues.
This launched today. It's an initiative to grow this bipartisan coalition to support Kamala Harris and get her to victory. I think a lot of us lean conservative, as you know, and I think what is happening here with the Republican Party, we believe is dangerous and extreme. And I think we need to get back to the values of, observing the rule of law, of standing with our international allies and actually providing true leadership to the world, which is something that Kamala Harris has exhibited during the Biden administration.
I'm sorry, does that say Harris for president on your wall? Wow. They move fast. They move fast. That's pretty good.
At the end of the day, we need to all take a stand against the potential that this man could come back into office. I think this is extremely dangerous. And look, I think the coalition will grow. I'm having conversations with Republican voters who privately will tell me that they're very concerned. They're horrified about what's happening in the Republican Party.
Now, the group that's at least open to revealing themselves includes former Secretaries Chuck Hagel and Ray LaHood, former Governors Jim Edgar, Bill Weld, and Christine Todd Whitman, former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, former members of Congress Rod Chandler, Tom Coleman, Dave Emory, Wayne Gilchrist, Jim Greenwood, John LaBoutier, Susan Molinari, Jack Quinn, Jennifer Riggleman, Claudine Schneider, Christopher Shays, Peter Smith, Alan Steelman, David Trott, and Joe Walsh. Not to mention Mesa, Arizona Mayor John Giles, former GOP state chair and state senator Chris Vance, Reed Howard of Young Republicans for Harris, former RNC delegate Rena Shah, and a whole lot more. By the way, I did mention former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan. Yeah, he wanted to smoke.
He's got lots of problems and lots of constituencies that don't like him and really genuinely want an excuse to not vote for him. I think his lies and his hateful attitude is really starting to serve as snake venom to that 10% that are going to actually care and matter. I mean, I can't personally support Donald Trump for a number of reasons, but one of them is because he instigated death threats against my wife and my kids and did nothing about it. I had armed guards outside these windows waiting for somebody to try to attack me, not because they were a terrorist, but because they were a Republican that believed in his lies. This is now starting to not be Donald Trump's problem. This is starting to be the Republican Party's problem. We have to call him out for what he is. He's a felonious thug who walks down the street and throws sucker punches at people like Brian Kemp, like African-American journalists, like John McCain, and the list goes on and on and on again. And the Republican Party is content sitting across the street watching it happen and not calling him out, not jumping into that fight and saying, you are wrong for us. We're either going to, as Republicans, take our medicine and realize the election wasn't rigged. Donald Trump was the worst candidate ever in the history of the party, even worse than Herschel Walker.
But I also mentioned Adam Kinzinger. He definitely wanted to smoke.
Today, you announced you are endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris for president, and you joined a number of fellow Republicans to kick off Republicans for Harris. Tell us why.
Well, I mean, it's really easy. Look, if you're a conservative, a real conservative that believes in things like the Constitution, the principles this country was founded on, I mean, you can disagree with Kamala Harris on policy issues, but really the threat that's really near to us is, does democracy survive? And I don't mean that like esoterically or to be like dramatic, but when you think of the last election and the fact that Donald Trump convinced a significant amount of the country that trusted him, that put their faith in him, that an election was stolen when it wasn't stolen. When you convince people that the system doesn't work and that your voice isn't heard, you do real damage to self-governance. It's really hard to self-govern if a significant amount of the country believes that their voice isn't heard, their vote doesn't count. So in my mind, there's no doubt Donald Trump is a clear threat to the future of democracy, the future faith of democracy. And Kamala Harris has made it clear that she supports it even when we disagree on things. That's what democracy is about. It's about disagreeing. And also, by the way, another big thing, she supports Ukraine's victory against Russia. And Donald Trump has been very clear that he instead admires Russia. So that's why.
Now, here's the part where I have to ask myself, what is Black MAGA thinking right now? When you watch them call every black person a DEI hire, when you see the level of sexism that they are directing towards Kamala Harris, I believe he even is calling her Kamabla now at this particular point in time. The fact that they just referred to the vice president and presumptive Democratic nominee as Kamala, you have all this going on. I'm wondering, what are the mental gymnastics that the Michaela Montgomerys and Byron Donalds of the world are undergoing right now? It's got to look something like Simone Biles' vault. It really has to. By the way, while we're talking about Michaela Montgomery, I just did a whole piece dragging her performance when Trump was in Atlanta. Make sure you check that out. The link will be in the description. Byron Donalds gets dragged every other week, but we have one on him this week as well. Don't worry about that. I really learned a whole lot listening to longtime Republican Sophia Nelson.
I think the vice president got it right the other day when she spoke at the funeral of our soror, Sheila Jackson Lee, when she said, America deserves better. This is the year of our Lord 2024. The fact that a presidential candidate of a major party would go to NABJ and in front of an entire black audience of journalists and demean the sitting black female vice president, the first woman vice president in the history of the country. And, you know, Fred, I wrote about this in my Atlanta Journal article this past week about the one drop rule. And clearly a lot of people in this country aren't familiar with what that means, and you've got to go back and learn a little history. This country was set up in a way that was slavery and then post-slavery Reconstruction into Jim Crow, that one drop of black blood in you identified you as black. And Kamala Harris has been clear her entire life who she is. She went to Howard. She pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. You can't get any blacker than that, to be real honest with you. So I don't know what this nonsense is about, but I think she's correct that the country deserves better from the nominee of the Republican Party than this racist, misogynist line of attack.
A couple takeaways. She highlighted something that I often found odd. Instead of trying to actively win over voters and not just pretending like, hey, I got a mugshot, I got some shoes, how about that for the black community? Instead of actually trying to win over voters or appealing to different demographics, you try and restrict voting. Like you literally trying to stop a process that is moving away from you. This is very much like throwing a Band-Aid on a bullet wound and continuing to eat your meal at the Waffle House. I don't understand. What is the long-term prognosis for this GOP?
Campaigns are about addition, not subtraction. Yes, it gets his base excited. Yes, it coalesces his base, but he's turning off independents. He's turning off moderate Republicans. Republicans for Harris launched today, 40,000 people on social media. They're going to have a call. There is a movement for Vice President Harris that is multi-generational, multicultural, and this country, as you know, in just 5 years will be majority minority. So I don't know what Republicans are doing. They're subtracting, they're not adding.
Secondly, I have to ask, if you are entrenched in MAGA land, how do you process the litany of people that have been close to Trump that have turned away from him for the 2024 election? Like, how do you process that? Because they actually know him. They actually have worked with him. You just have a flag, okay? And they, by and large, in humongous numbers, have told you he ain't shit. So how exactly are you continuing to legitimize your support? Like, you see a bunch of people running away from somewhere that you are approaching. You don't get concerned? You don't get concerned as you continue to take steps towards something that everybody is fleeing from? That's something I don't have to worry about when it comes to us. Now, they don't have to worry about that because all I need is 2.3 people. I see 2.3 people running that way. It's 3.3 people running that way. That's all I need to know. Now that we've heard from the professionals, what are the people talking about?
My name is Jimmy. I'm a white, heterosexual, 60-year-old male. I drive a Ford F-350. I have an American flag tattooed on my arm. Did not go to college. I was a Republican for 34 years. Cast my first vote for Ronald Reagan. And I'm voting for Kamala Harris.
My favorite part of that is that he had to mention that he was heterosexual and he drove an F-150. He knew, because he's been on those message boards. He's been on alt Twitter. He knows exactly their plan of attack, and he was like, I'm gonna nip that at the bud. I'm gonna nip that at the bud. No, they not coming for me like that. 8 out of 10.
I'm a 56-year-old white gun-owning country boy. And if Kamala Harris thinks she can get my vote, well, she'd be right. Because I'm also a grandfather. We failed to leave my kids' generation a better world. And now I worry not just about the kind of world we'll leave my grandkids, but what kind of country will we leave them? That other guy, I'm also a veteran from a long line of veterans. And he's just not safe. So yeah, I'll be voting for Kamala Harris because she wants to move us forward.
Fantastic mentioning the gun owning, fantastic cowboy hat. Also, I think I heard some wind blowing, so it sounds like you're in rural America. That is very authentic. Solid points about the generation and thinking about the kind of country that you're passing to the next generation. And as a veteran, I was wondering why veterans generally don't have more issue with Trump and his history. I have to take some points away though. Were those solar panels? Were those solar panels? Okay, yeah, no, because those should be oil drums right there. Those should either be oil drums or an inoperable vehicle. That's right there. So I got to take some points away. 7 out of 10.
So let me get this straight. Conservatives told us that George Floyd was no martyr, because he was a convicted felon, criminal drug addict who robbed a pregnant woman. But Trump is your guy, the same guy who is a 34-time convicted felon, liable for the rape of E. Jean Carroll, paid hush money to a stripper, and on the Epstein flight logs. So when it's a wealthy white billionaire, he is the victim. But when it's a poor black person, he needs to accept personal accountability and pull himself up by the bootstraps. Got it.
Now, I was a little distracted by the flowers and by the cat, but the point that you made was solid. I mean, that was church. I mean, that was church. The arguments they made with George Floyd, and the arguments with Donald Trump, perfectly done. You spoke very clearly. You also have very strong facial hair. You kind of look like a created character on a video game. 8 out of 10.
I am Rosario Marin, the first and only immigrant woman to be Treasurer of the United States. I have been a Republican since 1984, when I had the great privilege to vote for Ronald Reagan. I have been a delegate to 5 Republican conventions. But when Trump took over the party, I couldn't vote for him. I am sick and tired of listening to all the insults he has levied against such an accomplished woman as our vice president. I don't agree with Kamala Harris on every policy issue, but I am deeply offended that Trump, his campaign, or those Republicans that support him will call her dumb, evil, or a DEI hire. This November, this Republican will cast her vote for Kamala Harris, and I ask you to do the same.
Hey, Blacks for Trump. Yeah, she talking to y'all. Yeah, she talking. She want to holler at. She talking to y'all. Yeah, she called y'all all out. Yeah, it was an animal. It was an animal. Start with a C. 9 out of 10.
I am voting for Vice President Harris for, among other reasons, the fact that she understands that injecting disinfectant and bringing UV light into the human body is not a valid course of treatment for COVID. She knows that water regulations do not cause low water pressure in toilets and showers, and she understands that the noise from windmill turbines does not cause cancer. She is very well aware of the fact that the British did not control American airports during the Revolutionary War and that Kofi is not a word. She does not believe that detonating nuclear warheads inside of a hurricane is a valid means of stopping the hurricane. She understands that by being able to memorize and then repeat back the 5 words person, woman, man, camera, and TV is not proof of mental acuity. She does not believe that the president's nuclear button has to be much bigger and more powerful than Kim Jong-un's. She does not believe that microwaves are used as cameras to spy on political opponents. She does not believe that fathers should look at their daughters and then talk publicly about how they want to date them. And she did not send Jeffrey Epstein voicemails at 3 a.m. And finally, I am voting for Vice President Harris because she is not old and decrepit, racist, misogynistic, or weird. And I want a president who is not a convicted felon, not been found liable for committing fraud, or for defaming the woman that he raped. So, that good enough for you, or should I list some more?
That was absolutely perfect. That is a 10 out of 10. That was amazing. I wouldn't change anything about that. I do wonder though, I mean, people have signed up in droves for this, like I've been waiting for them to do, but I gotta wonder because he had a whole lot of material. What makes y'all want to flee MAGA so bad?
When it came out, it was Corona, right? Corona. Corona is 6 letters. When you use gematria and you say A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and you put Corona lined out at 6-6. So that's 666. But we found that out. So they're saying the white wing crazies found it out. So they changed it to COVID-19, which is C. What is this? C, right?
The C, yeah.
Ovid, look it up. Ovid means sheep. 19, military code for surrender. C, sheep, surrender.
Oh, I get it. I get it. I'm not a Republican, but you know what? Go ahead and sign me up because I just need away from them too. Sincere thanks to everybody who's reached out to me and submitted suggestions for videos. Keep them coming. I take submissions for ideas for a video, suggestions for Racist of the Week. If you have something that just troubles you, or you just want to send me a note, because I love getting those notes, go ahead and shoot me an email at reese@reesewaters.com. I also have a newsletter that I send out periodically, so you'll be receiving that as well. You can also sign up on my website, reesewaters.com.